Two experts in ICF. Decades of experience. One podcast. Two hosts with a lot to say.
Look, I cannot sit through a struggle. I gotta get up and hustle. I gotta push through the pain, cause really that's how you build muscle.
Welcome to the Build With ICF Podcast with your hosts, Trevor Brown and Heather Herring-Brown. Yep, they're a package deal. With over 20 years of ICF installation experience, Trevor can throw down some expertise on sales, marketing, and training. On the other side of the table sits Heather, aka the Girl Boss, and she's earned the title as the owner of an award-winning ICF construction company, a drafting and design company specializing in ICF. And the numbers? With a master's in accounting, she does that too. Sleeves up, boots on. This is the Build With ICF Podcast.
I don't want nothing for free. I'm here to work.
Finally.
We're doing it.
Man, we've been sitting here talking about this for a while now. So, love the intro. It's a little lengthy. We apologize, but then we don't have to go over everything at the beginning of every episode. So, we're going to let that do the speaking for us so we can get right into the meat and potatoes of what we're trying to do with this podcast. Shout out to our friend and co-host on our other podcast, Jody Sally, for doing that intro for us. He put that together. I thought it turned out really good. So anyways, I am Trevor Brown.
And I am Heather Herring-Brown.
And we're pleased to bring you episode 1, season 1 of the Build With ICF podcast, something we've been talking about doing for quite a while. So
yeah, it's exciting. We've been talking about this since I got the website domain.
yeah, when you lucked out and landed the buildwithicf.com when you think everyone else would have that.
Yeah, no kidding.
So back it up, we basically kind of give a little bit of backstory. Obviously, the intro does a pretty good job, but how we got involved in insulated concrete forms and why we're so passionate about it that we actually want to create a podcast around it is, I'm going on a little over 20 years now of working in this industry. Got involved somewhat by accident, I should say. I mean, kind of did some research about it, was getting into the industry with my brother, into the building industry. We kind of grew up in it, and we're looking to try to expand out. And so looking at different options. I know SIP panels was kind of a hot thing back then. And then also we had just trying to be young guys coming into a market with a bunch of 40-something-year-old established builders. We knew we needed to do something different. So we were looking at all kinds of different options and stuff, and then we ended up getting lucky and crossing paths with some of the right people. And we went down, decided to go on the road. We went to the Builders Show down in Las Vegas, and figured that was a good way to get out of Idaho, where we're based, and go see what's going on in the rest of the world. So ended up at the Builders Show, the International Builders Show, and we're talking to people about SIP panels. We were talking about people about all kinds of different innovative stuff, and everyone kept kind of bringing us back around to this ICF thing, and we had heard about it. We talked to some people about it before, and then we just got into more research and ended up crossing paths with a future guest on this podcast, and Mr. Randy Daniels, that's currently with Fox Block. Back in the day, he was with ARCS, which hopefully if you're an OG in this industry, you probably remember Blue Max, which then became ARCS, which was the largest ICF company for a long time. And they made some bad business moves and went away, did some deals with some different companies. Next thing you know, got bought out and went out of business, and it's kind of established a lot of the leaders today are people that have spun off of that company. So anyways, got involved with that and became installers, became distributors, became builders, and 20-something years later, here we are. So
Yeah, so a little bit different for how I got into to ICF, but I started building, well, not really building, but remodeling back in 2004, and for a few years did a lot of fix and flips, and buying everything from a short sale to a foreclosed home, just whatever we could buy and fix up and make some money on, and then after having purchased a whole bunch of houses from one specific bank, got a phone call with them asking if I was interested in buying some lots. And not knowing what I didn't know and, just being willing to learn, I was like, yeah, I'd be interested in some lots. How much? And ended up buying 4 lots for about $20,000 a piece, which is unheard
They're
of.
slightly higher than that now.
Slightly,
Yeah.
add a zero. But so bought the lots, went out and partnered with a builder and worked through those first 4 lots and learned, kind of how to run the job and do the day-to-day stuff. Like I knew how to do, how I would run everything in a remodel, but on new construction, it was a little bit different. And so I learned that. Fast forward, 2004 to 2015, I guess. I was at a trade show. I was actually the chairman for our parade of homes, and we were getting ready to do our parade drawing where all the builders show up and you put your name in a hat and we draw out 40 names, and those are the 40 builders that get a parade home that year. So I was going around and introducing myself and saying thank you to all of our vendors, suppliers that were there that had sponsored the event, and went over to one of the booths where I bought all my plumbing and appliances and a bunch of stuff from, and my supplier in there introduced me to you. And
me?
To you, yeah. And you were there, slinging ICF.
Yeah,
and
silver-tongued devil.
And so, I had been called, by a lot of people in our industry, in our market, the girl builder. And I was getting really annoyed at being called the girl builder. And so I wanted to do something that would make me stand apart from everybody else out there, other than the fact that I was a female.
Well, I think the best part was literally my favorite line of our ever even meeting is just because the pure irony of the name of your company when you walked up to the booth and they introduced you. That's the owner of Innovative Custom Homes. I said, "Oh, Innovative Custom Homes. What do you do that's innovative?"
Not really anything.
Not much.
Not much. Yeah.
It took me back because I'm ready for this big spiel of I do this, and it was so true and so accurate, and it's still true. It's something that we still see in the industry, and I say the building industry, not just the ICF industry, that people really do have good intentions to try to build the best homes. And I mean, you had every intention when you named your company Innovative Custom Homes is to do innovative things, and you just get worn down by the normal deal, and it's you just do what the customer asks you to do, and I think a lot of builders are guilty of letting the customer drive what their company does, which
100%. And we were coming out of when I started buying these lots, that was coming out of 08, 09.
Yeah.
And so I was doing whatever I could to sell a home as we were building them. And so you didn't want to be too out of the norm. You wanted to do some cool things, but we really were limited by what our clients would pay for.
Yeah, it really comes down to it's a slippery slope. You've got to do what the customer wants, but you also have to have some respect for your company and your brand. And it's a battle I've dealt with. I mean, like I said, 20 plus years. I've managed, at one point I managed the Western 11 states for Anvic Building Systems, one of the larger ICF companies out there. And I traveled all over the country talking to people and asking them, why don't you just do ICF? Well, this or that, the customer, the subs. And so you get a lot of people with saying that that's it. And I try to remind people well, whose company is it? Well, I got to make money. I know, but there's a point too where you have to be able to stand up and respect what you want your business to be and what you want your portfolio to look like, what you want your houses to look like. I mean, that's your calling card. Every time you leave, the house is going to be there hopefully for hundreds of years, and it's going to have your name on it. So it was just interesting. You were very honest with me and said that, and I just was like, okay. And I said, well, I have an innovative product, and I got to go around. I got to go talk to everybody, but I'm going to come back. And I was like, yeah, I've heard that before. I'm a sales guy. Okay, we'll see you later. And it's sure as shit, you came back, and next thing you know, we sat here and had a conversation about it, and that was on a Thursday night. Yep. I believe we set up a lunch for Tuesday, and by Tuesday afternoon, you were redrawing your plans in ICF, and you're like, let's give it a go and see if it's as good as you say it is, and you haven't built a stick frame house since.
No, it was interesting because I already had my plan. Like when you're going in to build a parade house and you're going in for a drawing, you have to have your plans, your idea of what you're going to do, your lot, everything kind of has to be done, because if you get drawn, then you're in the parade 6 months later.
Right.
So, you're having to
With that plan.
You've got to get going.
Yeah.
And so I had a plan, and I think I even pulled it up on my phone or something that night and showed you, and you're like, yeah, this will convert great to ICF. And it's like, okay, great. Let's get with my superintendent and, my sales rep for the company whose booth you were standing in. And we had a meeting, and you gave me the price and told me, how much it was going to be for the ICF block. And I started running the numbers and looking at it and going, well, this really isn't going to cost me anything else, that much more to build with. It wasn't going to cost me more when you start taking out all the things that I didn't need, which, we'll talk about more on future podcasts. But it really was an interesting thing to look at and go, all right, this is an innovative product. This is something I can do that I will stand out from every other builder in the parade, in my area right now, because I'd be the only one building with ICF. And then I was going to have a better home for my client for the same price as what they would be paying for something else. So to me, it was a no-brainer.
Right. And it not, and like I said, a lot of this, we're touching on so many things that are going to be a whole episode in itself. And we're going to go over numbers. I mean, we mentioned, you have a master's degree in accounting. You're very good with numbers. And so, we do a lot of that in our consulting business with people where we are showing them the correct way to, because they'll say, well, I did it and I'm still coming out 10% higher, 15% higher. And we debate that with them because we're like, well, let me see your numbers, because I think I know where you probably messed up. You probably missed your headers, are probably still in there, or your OSB for the sheathing is in there, or your Tyvek is in there, your house wrap is in there. Something. I mean, there's always stuff, or you didn't downsize your HVAC system, or do you even need an HVAC system? Can we go to a smaller mini split system? So there's a lot of different ways that we'll get into there. But you were so quick to pick up on that, and made it, like I said, a dream situation. And for the record, that was many, many years before we ever started dating or everything. It was just completely professional relationship. And slowly but surely, I won you over with how good a salesperson I am. That's my side of the story.
Your side, yeah.
That's how I tell it.
We'll just stick with that.
Yeah, sure. So getting into kind of the ins and outs. One thing I want to mention too, that you pivoted even from that. You got involved, through your process of trying to get started doing your first ICF home. You started to figure out kind of the struggles of getting the standard everyday architect or drafting company to do your plans to ICF standards and stuff. And so you did what you always do and
start another company.
It's
easy. It's like, buying a new pair of jeans. You just start a new company.
Yeah.
I was frustrated with planning and designing way before this, because there definitely is a shortage in our market and probably across the country, because, now having a drafting company and working with people all across the country, I see that. But what I saw in my own market was I went from like a 5 business day turnaround for red lines to 10 days to 15 days to like, we're so swamped. I'm going to be this far out. And it just got super frustrating, and you can't build a business doing that. So, what I ended up doing was, starting my own drafting company. I had an employee that had experience with drafting. And so we went out and we got some software, got all set up. And at first I just had her drawing plans just for me. We converted a bunch of my plans that I had to ICF to see how it was going to work. Started doing that. And then now it's been 5 years since starting the drafting company. And we draw plans all over the country and mainly ICF. That's our specialty. I really do enjoy that. One of my purposes, I guess, for drawing plans was I wanted to reduce the waste on our jobs. Right. And so I wanted to see, okay, if we maximize the efficiency of the block with the dimensions that we're using, how little waste could we come out of there with, and how quickly could we get a structure put up and filled with concrete. So there's a lot of things that went into it, because I started the drafting company the same time that my distributor got bought out by another company, and I was their number one customer. So I ended up taking over that distributorship as well. So another company on top of that, just because they all just kind of went hand in hand.
Yeah, and that was on my end of the business. That was when I was territory manager for the company at that time, and they, and it was an unfortunate thing because it was a locally owned, 8 location 8 branches, and they loved it. They loved ICF. They were doing well with it, but because they were a plumbing company, and they got purchased by a very large, huge national company, when the national company did their first round of books and inventory and said, what are these blocks that we have in our yard? And they said, oh, those are insulated concrete forms. I said, well, get them out of here. They're not plumbing products. Get them out. And we argued it for a while. My customer tried to hey, we make good money on this. We're doing really well with it. They just said no. So there was no negotiating with them. So that's when it came to a opportunity. You were the biggest customer at that time for them, and so it just came natural to maybe see if you wanted to become a distributor. And I've had and again, this is all stuff that we'll get into in other episodes. I've had great success building successful distributors all over the country, and the most successful distributors I have tend to have a background in the construction side of it. Understand the installation. They're doing it. They're doing, they can teach it, coach it, consult it, sell it, everything. And that was where I think it just made sense for you to fall into that.
100%. And then it also allowed me, because my very first ICF home, which was that parade home, we call it the Toronto, because, we worked with Amvic. They're out of Toronto.
Yeah.
So it made sense.
It was, yeah. Shout out.
We ended up winning an award at the World of Concrete for that plan. But my whole goal was to create a home that from the outside, you couldn't tell it was concrete. Because as soon as you say you're building a concrete home, people think bunkers.
Right.
They just
Squares,
think squares,
bunkers, yeah.
No windows, no curb appeal. And so that's really what I wanted to show, is that we really could build something that, super, super cool looking, beautiful, and you could not tell from the outside that it was concrete. And we did that. That's what we get to design every day, which is super fun. But the whole thing, from design to supplying the blocks to building the home, it really is it needs to be a cohesive thing. And that's what I think has allowed, that's why we've grown the way that we have, is because we do have all of that. Whether I'm your builder or we're drawing plans for somebody in Florida, we understand all the different blocks. We understand all the different dimensions. I understand the building side of it. So it all kind of plays a part together as we're doing plans for people all over the country.
Yeah, I mean, we did it today, literally, because you and I, we consult with our drafting company. We overlook things. The drafting company sends them to us. We actually review them for measurements and stuff. And so I actually go through per the brand, and I will actually take I will literally start taking the measurements of the block that we're using or that the customer's selected. Even, they'll tell us what, if it's Nudura or Amvic or Fox Block or Superform or Build Block or Logix, and I'm leaving a bunch of people out here, but in any company that we work with, we then go download all their details. We get the measurements from their block, and then we utilize that when we're drawing them. And we say, hey, if we move this measurement from 5 feet down to 24.8, then it's going to save you a bunch of money and cuts and different things like that. So I think that's something that we do that nobody else does, and that's why we eliminate that waste, and that's another big part of it, how you keep the cost down. And people go, well, how do you build a R52 fireproof, bulletproof house for the same price as a 2x6?
Well, that's how it's
tinder box,
by being effective with your materials, because every block is money. You don't want to be throwing it away. But that's a whole podcast in and of itself that we'll do. And I know we want to bring in, we've got some other friends in the industry that draw plans, that we'll bring them on as well. Because it's such a growing industry that not 1, 2, 3, 4 drafting companies can handle all the business.
It's the fastest growing construction method in the United States. So that's period. We get, we can grow with that, and it's something that we'll just continue to bring more and more stuff in. So that's our plan with this podcast moving forward, is to do educate people. I mean, everything we do around this whole podcast is to be educational. I look at how you can fix your car now by watching YouTube channels and watching something on YouTube. we want to kind of be that for podcast. And we will do some YouTube videos. We're working towards doing video, but we'll do audio for now. But we want to have, we're going to try to make it to where our playlist or our library of podcast episodes are going to be specific to, if you want to look up how to do electrical, we're going to have an episode on how to do electrical. You want to talk to people about, different ways to do different, we've talked about the cost of HVAC, different HVAC systems to do, how to do radiant floor systems.
Yep.
I mean, we're going to do an episode on everything. It is very important for all the listeners to, send us a, DM, send us an email, and ask us for any episodes that they're looking, to have. We will definitely work it into the mix of what we're going to do. We've created a pretty lengthy list of things. Actually going to cheat and look at our list that we already kind of pre-wrote. Second episode that we're going to have right behind this one is going to be why ICF. Just a basic cover of why you do ICF. We get a lot of people, homeowners, that are contacting us. Like I said, again, great purchase on the buildwithicf.com because we get a lot of, just by having that name and URL, we get a lot of contact from all over the country and world, even, people asking why to build with ICF. Mm-hmm. So we're going to basically go over that in episode 2. And then I think after that, we're already slated to get Vanessa and possibly Craig from ICF Builder Magazine on here. If they want to come on and talk to us about that. We will be doing a specific episode probably on World of Concrete. We're wanting to maybe get some interviews done and some things while we're at World of Concrete, prep people for what to look for at World of Concrete.
Yeah. Which some people are probably laughing if they're not really familiar with ICF and concrete. They're
yes, it's a real thing.
They really do have a place. I think, it's in Vegas. It's an amazing show. It's so much fun. You learn so much about concrete.
Yeah, you didn't think concrete was that cool, Then you go see the whole room full of pump trucks, brand new shiny pump trucks, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that might just be a concrete nerd thing.
It might be. I've got a whole line of shirts around all these different concrete things too.
Yeah,
so
we'll bust those out too. Maybe we'll start selling those on the podcast. We'll have swag. But yeah, we're going to get into, we want to, some of the things we want to do is ICF design, basically why, some of the things that we really do focus on, not just, we'll go over more specifically the measurements and where to put things.
Yeah, where to put things, and probably a whole episode on conversions, because that's a big thing. Like people start in, planning their home, and then they're like, oh, well, maybe I want to try ICF. And there's a whole show on how we do that conversion. So
a big one that we get a lot of questions, maybe even the most questions about, is waterproofing. We get a lot of waterproofing questions. We actually have got involved and started a waterproofing division of our company. So we it was such a big deal, and we found a great product for waterproofing that we really like that we'll have them on as well. They're called Hulk Systems. They're a liquid composite system that we order in gray, concrete gray. It covers the ICF block and it looks like concrete from afar as you're driving by, so it hides the block. But it also, the coolest thing is it makes the expanded polystyrene, which is normally a kind of a soft product and easy to dent or damage. You can actually hit it with a framing hammer and you can't put a hole in it. It's an amazing product. It's 20 plus years in the industry. It's only the second thing that's really blown my mind. So I'm very impressed with it. But we'll have the one thing I will say too is we are not here to promote our specific products.
No, not at all.
I am willing to work. We're going to get on every brand that will come on. We're going to have them on, not just brands that we work with. We're going to have the other drafting companies on here. Robert Klobb is the OG ICF guy, drafting company out of Arizona. Robert's already agreed to come on the podcast. We're going to have him on. We're not in competition with anybody in our industry. We are about promoting everyone in our industry, and I want this podcast to be universally a promotion of the industry, and everyone that wants an opportunity to speak should get that on there. We'll have multiple alignment system companies that are going to be coming on and talking about alignment systems.
We'll talk about engineering on there, because that's a big thing that we deal with a lot. So we'll have multiple engineering companies, just because there's so many different aspects, depending on if you're just doing ICF walls, if you're doing, radiant floors, if you're doing concrete roof, concrete floors in between. Just so many things that we can talk about, and layers for the engineering.
Yeah, Pools
Oh,
is
yeah.
a big one we get a lot of calls on. So we're going to be talking a lot about pool. We're going to do a pool episode. We're going to do, I won't go through all of them here, but basically, fireproofness, water, weather resistance, concrete roof systems, multifamily, commercial, stuff like that. So anyways, plan on having a lot of different episodes out, specifically, and try to stick to that episode per, so we have it. You can basically go back to the playlist, and if you have a question about something, we're going to get right to it, and you can just listen to that one. So anyways, that's our plan for the podcast. We're going to try to keep all these podcasts in the 30-minute range.
Yes.
I think that's going to be good for us. We will give a little shout out or a little plug for our existing podcast that we've had now for 4 years, called the Wreak Havoc Podcast. It's a sales, marketing, and business podcast that we've been doing. It's kind of where we got a little bit of our expertise. I wouldn't say expertise. I said at one point I said we were perfecting the podcast thing with that before we did this. We're still not perfect, so I'm not gonna try to throw that one out there. You can listen to Wreak Havoc and understand.
No, but we
we're
do
not
have
perfect.
way cooler gear now,
Yeah,
than we
yeah.
did when you first started your podcast. I remember coming onto your podcast before, like, when we were just working together, and the microphones and having to hold our microphone, and just, everything wasn't as cool as it is now. So
No, and I mean, we didn't have like a studio audience that applauded. We didn't have that. Or we didn't have like when you tell all those funny jokes.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm known for.
There we go.
Oh.
No, we've we can do all kinds of fun stuff. So we'll mess around with all the we have too many toys to play with and stuff.
Yeah, it's better when he doesn't mess with those buttons there.
Oh, does that make you sad? Anyways, yeah, it gets cheesy. I promise we'll try to hold those to a minimum, but we have them if we need them. So anyways, it's going to be fun. I'm excited about it. It's something we're extremely passionate about. We've molded our lives around the ICF industry, and now it's time for us to try to promote that with other people. And if we can do stuff that's going to help people get involved in the industry or have a better experience with the industry, then that's what we're here for. So anyways, something we enjoy doing. So you can go to at Build With ICF on any of the social medias. We're on Facebook and Instagram, and we haven't got a TikTok yet.
Oh, we'll have to
We
get
might be
right
able
on
to
that.
do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we might have to do that. But we are on all social medias. You can also reach out to us at info at Build With ICF.
Mm-hmm.
And we're happy to take any kind of suggestions or questions, or if you just want to come on the show, anything like that, please reach out to us and let us know. But anyways, until next time, please tune in for episode 2, where we'll be talking about why ICF. And until then, thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.